Hello my guys, gals and non-binary pals, and welcome to a new video by Dan Fatalis in this series where we review and react and look at it from a feminist lens. Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls!
Watch out for the big girls. Watch out for the big girls.
As usual, first off, let me thank our Patreons. Our channel is really small, so what they do to give us support is really what is giving us hope and giving us the energy to try and do more and more videos to try and grow this channel to the point where maybe it can be monetized, it can get sponsorship, all of that. But at the moment, all the little pennies that we get is from our Patreons, so thank you guys. And if you like what we do and you are in a comfortable and safe economic position, then you can check out Patreon and see if you would like to support us as well. $1 to $10, however much you feel comfortable with. Otherwise, for a one-off donation, there's PayPal available. And now, let's get into it. So today we're watching episode 3 of Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls, and it's called Curves and Confidence. And I'll be honest with you, this is the episode where I was watching during my binge watch, where I was like, okay, this is worth doing videos and talking about, because there's a lot of lived experience, there's a lot to be said from a feminist perspective, there's a lot to be said from a philosophical perspective, and with all the stuff that we've been doing and researching in the last year, it felt like maybe there was something to add on to it. And today it was really impressive because, you know, the last couple of days we've put out the first couple of videos, and at the beginning they were very silent, and I was like, it doesn't matter, they're out there, eventually maybe someone that needs them will find them, and it wasn't much. But then of course, before any kind of recognition comes the hate. So I actually changed the title of the series to Dear Fat Haters, because that's the main kind of comments and reactions that I've got. And that just gives you a hint of an example of what Lizzo's gone through, what all these girls go through, and why representation and being unapologetically present is something of help. It's not something that everybody needs to feel like they have to do. It's not fat people's duty to normalize our presence and existence. It's society's, and it's just so impressive how much pushback there is just because a fat girl is giving a media analysis and feminist take on events that happen on a show about fat girls. The way that people get angry, chill. So this reminded me that it's very, very worthy and important to do this review. And I know that a few years ago I could have used someone explaining to me some things. I got to understand most of these things very late in life, so I'm glad that we're here now. Without any further ado, let's get into this episode, because as I mentioned, it's probably my favorite.
I'm gonna tell y'all something. It's from the heart. I just released Rumors, and it's been great. I've had a lot of love. I've had some hate because of the way that I look. And as an artist, that's happened a lot. They don't want big girls to be sexy. They don't want us to be happy. And that's why this show is so important to me, because... Sorry.
It's all right.
It's hard to love yourself in a world that doesn't love you back, you know what I mean? And I've been trying to do it so boldly. I put myself out there. When you put yourself out there, you get attacked. But y'all are so beautiful and so talented. And I want you to believe the sexy that comes out of y'all today, because you're gonna need that. When we're on stage representing, it's gonna inspire so many people, and it's gonna shut down so many fucking haters.
You're not gonna believe this. As I was going to the notes, more of the haters' comment on the previous episodes are coming, and something that, as someone that has done YouTube for like 12 years now, the one thing that when I went to like YouTube workshops, like actually the YouTube space and all of that, that they keep on saying to anyone who wants to do a channel is engagement is so important. Like likes, dislikes, they count the same. Comments means that you're really doing something right. The platform wants engagement of any kind, which is part of why like bad reaction videos had got popular in the last 10 years. People like Logan Paul, that kind of people. And because they get a lot of interaction with that, even just people being mad at them, but that engagement makes the algorithm love you. So I don't expect that kind of engagement, but it's impressive that the kind of engagement before getting it from some people that maybe find this useful, maybe are listening to this, which I'm sure are there, it's the anger of people that don't want fat girls to feel okay. So this guy, I can only guess, he started off saying bullshit in my previous video, saying it's not true that people think bad of you when you eat a salad. A fat person eats the salad and we cheer them up. And I'm like, I guess that my lived experience means for nothing. Thanks for having illuminated me about how life actually worked for me in the last 40 years. But because he's clearly genuinely mad, even if I don't quite understand what, his follow-up was like, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Because I'm here exactly doing that, aren't I? I was an average kid that was bullied at camp for shyness. Bless. My mother's choice of red shoes and orange socks. So all things that, given a choice, could be changed. Wow, that must have been hard. It didn't take long for the tune red shoes, orange socks to become the going joke between the biggest jokes. At no point you could change your shoes and socks. My God, they must have been terrible, like sewn into your skin, were they? This crap is part of being a kid, not part of a race. Oh, so now we're hitting, oh, sorry. I was so silly to think that that was actually a criticism on being fat. Is there an equivalent of Oreo for someone that is not like necessarily black, but like half North African? Because that is clearly me, the innocence of being raised white, even if I wasn't, so that every time that someone was doing a dig at my impurity, race-wise, I never got it. And from fatness, in the space of one comment, we have got to race. Race, you naughty thing. As I said, fat phobia is really rooted in racism. And Chris just only 2 comments to basically give me a support case. So thank you, Chris. Let's get on to it.
It's hard to love yourself in a world that doesn't love you back. You know what I mean?
It is so hard to love yourself in a society that doesn't love you back. This will always be at the core of my current issues with society, with fat phobia, with myself. One of the problems that I personally found in the body positivity movement, the healthy at every size movement, especially a few years ago, it's got better now, was the chronic terminal need to love yourself. I think it's very well expressed in an episode of the 2nd season of Euphoria.
Kat hated herself. But the problem with hating yourself is you can't really talk about it. Because at some point recently, the whole world joined a self-help cult and won't shut the fuck up about it.
You're one of the bravest, most beautiful human beings I have ever seen.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. I wish I had your confidence.
But I don't, feel healthy.
Yes, you are.
No, seriously, I'm not.
Kat, you just have to love yourself.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. I fucking hate myself.
Love yourself! You love yourself! Love yourself! Love yourself! Love yourself! Love yourself! Love yourself! Love yourself!
Nothing else before touched upon it. The only fat study book that I ever read that even mentioned that was the Italian one, Bella di Faccia, beautiful face, which is the kind of compliment that girls usually get, the fat girls usually get. And there was a chapter there which made a point, at no point you are forced to like and love yourself in a society where you go out every day and is there to hate you. It's not right to demand something like that of fat people. You can't go out and force yourself to love something that society cannot take a breath from saying to you, no, you need to be disgusted at yourself because as I touched upon in the first video of this series, there is a lot of need for body advantage and body privilege of the status quo to be maintained. So if somebody that doesn't have a body that fits into that requirement of straight size can love, dress themselves how they want, that takes away something, that takes away privilege. It doesn't take away anything actually from the people, but privilege taken away, so equalization, always feels like abuse to people that have privilege, when it's just equalization of things. So it's important to... I appreciate more the concept of acceptance and body neutrality rather than body positivity, just because the idea that with random Chris coming shouting hate at me without knowing me, with all the hatred that I've got in the 5 years that I did my previous channel before, which was about healthy eating. So imagine the kind of flack that a fat woman got having a channel about healthy eating. It was so, the most common thing was, what would you know about keto, about healthy eating? You're fat. And that's such a go-to. It's just, the issue is not with me, the issue is with society. I know that I can't change the way that society has conditioned me to not be happy with my body. There's only so much that I can do about that, and it's a struggle every day, because if all the people that insult me knew what the stuff that I've gone through, if all the people that insult me knew that likely I already eat less than them, but they're not ready to listen. They will say that I lie. They will say, and you know what? I don't need to justify myself with my medical conditions. Like, that's not the point. I don't need a justification to not be shouted at, to not be insulted, to not be called disgusting, which was another one of the comments that I got, because I exist and talk. But I do it from a body that it's unacceptable. For a serious amount of time, I consider doing a YouTube channel that is just basically a podcast, just so I don't have to show myself and there cannot be that prejudice that takes away from the stuff that I do. Because these people are out there and they cannot accept the idea that someone that has been marginalized could come back into simply average existence like they are, because it's more people flowing into their pool and it takes something away from them somehow. Fuck you, Chris.
About a year ago, someone had posted one of my videos on their social media page, shaming fat bodies. Look at those rolls, look at those calves. I hate how her thighs are shaking. How could she even eat after looking like that?
How can she even eat looking like that? I went after yesterday's video to check where is this voice, where is this sentence that I have in my head coming from about there were no fat people in concentration camps. And it's not just something that like I used to see on Fat Logic, on Fat People Hate, that kind of thing. It turns out that it was actually, at least historically for the very little research that I've done, it was firstly said by a New Zealand MP in 2007, and then it was repeated in Australia in like 2015 by a doctor commentator.
Yes and no.
Moderation.
Look, everybody enjoys some sweet food. You're absolutely right. And there's something controversial. There were no overweight people in the concentration camps. Now, they weren't exercising a lot. They just weren't eating. Now, I'm not going any further with that except to say what you put in your mouth ends up on your hips.
Righto.
Very important.
Thank you for that. See you very soon. He said it, not me, Lisa.
The funny part about the doctor commentator, and I have to bring this because, again, it's my previous life. I had to look into sources of things. This doctor said that saying, oh, people that claim to have done something to lose weight, they are lying because there were no fat people in concentration camps. So there is a way to lose weight. They're just not doing it, starving themselves. The doctor was saying that, trying to defend a study funded by Coca-Cola, which has a bit of an interest, which tried to prove that actually being overweight depends more not on what you eat. So drink Coca-Cola. It's not on what you eat or what you drink. It's that you don't do exercise. So he tried to defend this already undefensible and very biased study, because the moment that you look at funding of a study, you can see where the interests lie. And to defend that, he goes on to reiterate, well, fat people lie, they've never tried to lose weight, because otherwise they would have lost it, because there were no fat people in concentration camps. And that is the shit that we have to deal with every day.
I grew up as an only child in the Bay Area to a pretty traditional Korean mom and a white dad. In Korea, plus size starts at a size 8 compared to the United States, where it might start as a 14 or 16. So when it comes to Korean societal standards, I definitely think it's significantly harsh, definitely with the rise of K-pop. Where these girls are size 0, 00, and they're seen as the average size. As someone who's been in the K-pop fandom for a very, very long time and has been posting dance covers for a while, I really can't help but to feel unworthy.
Isabel has a very similar experience to mine. So the first video essay that we ever made here is called Fatphobia or Racism, What's Worse in Italy? Because I was born and raised in Italy, and Italy has a stupidly skinny body image standard, beauty standard. So Superdrug did this study across countries a few years ago and asked graphic designers from different countries to Photoshop the body of a model in their ideal beauty standard of their country. And Italy came in second, the skinniest, after China. Both their ideal bodies were under healthy BMI. So growing up in that, I understand very well what Isabel is saying there. I reckon that if I'd grown up in the UK, even not even America, but in the UK, matches is still not accepted, and the reactions remain the same. It's much less frequent, it's much less popular and standard. In Italy, it is a duty to shout at fat people, to make fun of fat people in the street, it's insanely problematic. The sizes in regular stores don't go up further than a size UK 8, I want to say, which means a US 12. In regular stores, you don't get anything like that. You need to go to specialized stores. That has not changed in the last few years from what I hear, to the point that even global brands like H&M, who have stores in Italy, still don't carry in their physical stores the size. Like H&M gets to 22, 24 UK, and they still don't carry them in the physical stores in Italy because EU. In Italy, we also have, we had, I don't know if it's still the same, the time that I was growing up, so between the 80s and the 90s, we had a huge mass import of anime from Japan. So that was part of the aesthetic with which it's not just a nerdy thing. Everybody grew up with. It was part of the daily cartoons that you would get on TV, and it was Sailor Moon, it was Marmalade Boy, it was the aesthetic of long, lanky, svelte and he was just going along with all of that. So you were raised with that standard already. The one unacceptable thing that a woman can be in Italy is fat. To any degree, like again, anything over a size 8 here in the UK, so a size 12, I want to say, no, sorry, the other way around, a size 4. Because America is the opposite. America is like 2 sizes less than we are. So in Italy, you wouldn't get anything past a size 8 in a store, which means you wouldn't get anything past a size 4 in America, in a regular store. You would need to go to a specialized store. Here in the UK, I'm a skinniest. I never went past a size 12, which would be an American 8. But again, in Italy, specialized store, because they wouldn't carry my size. So I have a lot of sympathy and feelings for that. I would genuinely like to understand if they have the ability and comprehension to sit down and reason through their hate. I would genuinely like to understand what is the reasoning behind shouting and screaming and be upset that fat girls exist. Like, you shout at me if I walk back down the street. Something that happened, well, not relatively recently, but when I was already here in the UK, was just waiting at a bus stop and having a car of guys go by and throw me like the remains of a burger. I think something like that happened the first time to me when I was 11 in Italy. I was out walking with a friend of my same age, and we stopped getting like a snack for the afternoon in a bakery, and I got a toasty, and I had the very ill idea that at the time I still hadn't realized of eating that while we were walking in the city center. And there was a group of guys, I think, teenagers really, but older than me at the time, so I don't know, 17, 18, basically laughing at each other because one had to, I don't know, lost a bet or whatever, so had to come talk to me and ask me if I would give him a piece of my toasty for his friend. And I think that somebody that hasn't gone through it doesn't understand the ridicule of that, the fact that there were these niggering laughs and comments, the fact that the person that was chosen to come talk to me, 11-year-old fat kid, was the one that by proximity, because they had to talk to me, were humiliated in the process. A part of this bad humiliation process was to talk to the fat kid and ask them for a piece of their food. And people tell me that fatphobia doesn't exist, and people come and tell me how disgusting it is that I make these videos and how I should stop feeling sorry for myself. Bitch, I don't feel sorry for myself because I've survived this. You could take off your fucking colored socks. I can't take off any of what I have. And it's not for lack of trying, and I'm not gonna list for you the list of my medical issues, because those are not what entitles me to basic respect. You come to my place shouting insults at me. Bitch, there are plenty of places on YouTube to go with your friends and laugh and make fun of whatever the fuck you want, not in my house. No, I was thinking about explaining the struggle, but fuck it. I have the basic right to live and breathe without being harassed. That should not depend on anything other than me existing. Unless you want to fuck me, my existence offends you fundamentally. Isn't that the point? Unless I am a pretty enough thing to look at that you want to fuck, then the alternative is you shouldn't occupy space that you take up for someone else and I want to fuck. Like, seriously. What's the story there? Like, aren't you glad I get you less distracted so you can focus on the people that you want to fuck? Being fat, I was not entitled to be feminine, to wear feminine clothes, everything of that kind was inviting laughter. Like, does she think that there are enough clothes and enough makeup in the world to make her look decent, to make her look fuckable? When really what you think is, you're not pretty enough for me to fuck, so you don't even deserve to be ignored. You need to be punished for shrinking my potential fucking pool. Because anything within vision has to be a potential fuck or it's a waste, right, boys?
I used to be captain of the dance team, all eyes on me, I have to fit in my uniform. And I just at the time started becoming an influencer, so this pressure of just like, you know, you're gaining weight, everything's gonna change now if you gain weight. So I started working out a lot, and that's when I started like cutting back how much I was eating, and it just got really, really, really unhealthy. But although the gym at one point was taking all of this happiness and life away from me, I switched things around and turned working out into therapy for me and a way of healing.
I have the utmost respect for Sydney being able to work and find a way through basically using working out as self-punishment and self-harm in a way, because I know I've been there. For a very small fraction of my life, I have been not quite straight-sized, but in a way skinny enough now that I can think of it, that it should have made me normal. At the time I didn't feel like that, of course. At the time I was still a fat cow to my own eyes. And I used everything. I used fasting, I used working out, I used purging, I used laxatives, I used everything that was available to me to keep shrinking my body. And at some point that also stopped working, so I actually just had an eating disorder to heal. But I knew that a lot of those things I had to step away from for a very long time until my recovery put me in a safe place to be able to do these things, eat these things, and not have them take me over. So I had the utmost respect for the fact that Sydney could just be into it and be able to sort of switch the attitude that she had towards these things without necessarily depriving herself of the endorphins that it is part of working out. Because there's a lot of that I couldn't do for a long time just to make sure that I was keeping in recovery.
We look like Barbies. Like, we could do that.
What you mean? We already look like Barbies.
Exactly.
Like, we ain't got to be...
You look like a Barbie.
Oh, nigga, girl, you... we all look like Barbies.
We can be a different type of Barbie for a different type of girl.
Oh my God.
I love that. Like,
yes.
I'm the bald-headed, you know, dark-skinned chocolate Barbie for the bald-headed, dark-skinned little girls growing up. Like, that may have alopecia. That feels good.
A different kind of Barbie for a different kind of girl. I love ageist confidence. We already look like Barbies. There's never been a moment in my life in the current present time, when it was current and present, that I felt any kind of good about myself. Like these days, I go back looking at the pictures where I was a size 12, with such longing in my heart and in my throat. If only I could look like that again. But what is hard to remember, and I have my journals to remind me and prove it, is that I genuinely didn't feel like that even when I had that body. It wasn't enough. I wasn't making enough of an effort. I was a fraud. I was already in the midst of very severe binging and purging. I was binging and purging 3 or 4 times a day. It was medically scary and unhealthy, but I fit well. I used to fit well in clothes. And looking back now, it's very hard not to see that as the most important thing. If I looked like that, no one like Chris would come here trying to invalidate my life and my experience. Probably just because then at that point he would want to fuck me, which is not a good reason enough. But it's part of the reason why we think that these things are issues of the marginalized communities, whether it's fat people, trans people, queer people, black people, in general, non-white people. But the issue is always, when you go at the root of it, a matter of what did white patriarchy decided that they needed from the world, and everyone else in it, it's a product for their use and consume, and highlight on the consume. So women need to be in a certain way for them to find them pleasing. Women need to be a certain level of subservient to help and support with all that work that is like domestic work, that if it ever was paid, capitalism would collapse. There's a beautiful book by Laurie Penny, which is Meat Market, which goes very much into it, and there's a huge issue that we don't address about unpaid domestic work. Capitalism and the patriarchy are built on those, and we just try and make it sound like it's the default, and it's problematic if a woman is not tidy and keeps her house tidy and keeps herself tidy and all of that. But we don't teach boys the same thing. Like, it's expected, the bachelor pad is expected to be a mess, or to have a cleaning lady that comes in and cleans it. And that doesn't detract from his professionalism, from his being a serious person. But if it's a professional woman that doesn't look after her house, there's something bad with her. There's something structurally and morally wrong with her. And that's all part of those systems of oppression that need to keep us in place, because otherwise, if we were to look at how huge disparity is still, just even between men and women, without even going into intersectionality, then that's a huge amount of cans filled with worms. We don't want to call it out, because there's a lot to take down otherwise. I don't think Chris even understands the kind of oppression that he's upholding, coming here, talking shit without understanding. I don't think anyone that ever used the there are no fat people in concentration camps realized that there have been fat girls self-harming because of that, putting their fingers so far down their throat that they're actually making themselves bleed when there's nothing left in their stomachs. But the point at that point is, can I vomit up some parts of my insides? There's still less inside of me, and that's all they want, for me to be less of me. So is there a way for me to extract my organs from my throat if I push harder? Chris doesn't know that living the shit outside makes these things happen. He just does it. He thinks that his socks are as much as all the cells that I have in my body. God, I wish I could change my body as easy as he changes his socks.
There's more in this world than just small, petite, blonde hair, blue eye girls. You know, you got plus size, you got your alopecia doll, you got your trans doll. Like, we want representation.
We want representation, because until it's out there just as normal as anyone else, people will feel entitled to scream at us as freaks. And nobody tells the story, nobody talks about it, nobody wants to listen when the story is told, like I am here in these episodes. That their stuff, their shit, their thrown off comments shouted in the street or on YouTube can actually physically damage people. They don't understand, they don't want to hear it. And they, if anything, they think, well, you should damage yourself, at least there will be something less of you. So I still have a few notes for this episode, but I think you and I both understand the kind of strong feelings that this has put me into. So I feel like my mind is on one track at the moment. I know that it's something usual to receive abuse. Naively, watching this TV series and hearing people talk about it clearly in safe spaces, I didn't realize, gave me the very wrong perception that, oh, see, we're doing steps to normalize this, to just be out there shown dancing, breathing, living, eating. So it's legitimate that we can actually live and be ourselves and talk about these things. And I thought that it would have been so clever and so useful to put, a feminist studies kind of lens on this, because there are so many mechanisms at play behind the hatred towards fat people, the hatred towards non-white people, the hatred towards women, cis and trans, and even more trans. There are so many mechanisms at play, and I didn't know a lot of them 2 years ago. So I was like, this is such a good excuse to share that. And I did it naively thinking, things are changing, so I can do that. And you know what? It's less than a year ago that I did the fatphobia and racism video, so you might think, why are you surprised now? I got that same level of dismissal, regardless of the amount of historical data that I brought to show we weren't this fatphobic 150 years ago. You now want to claim we have a natural selection decision in our brain that doesn't let us go for fat because fat is evil. No, fat was sign of fertility. By the animal brain, we would still go for that. That's why a lot of people have fat girls as a fetish, but it's a secret fetish because then there's society's judgment on that. All this stuff, I am naive enough to be able very easily to put pins in this, and something comes and gives me a bit of joy and a bit of, oh, see, there's a right, yes, we're doing it. And then there's the fat haters that come around and remind me, no, you fat thing, you stay in your place. You have no right to feel sorry for yourself, which, girl, I'm sorry for you if you think that. I have survived in this body for 40 years, despite how much everything in life tried to make me end it earlier. So I have nothing to feel sorry for myself. I feel sorry for society thinking that it's acceptable to make or break people. And if you don't fit in the very specific mold that society has made, you need to be broken down. You need to be eliminated, possibly by your own hand. I will convince you that you don't deserve to live, to breathe, to walk, to dance, so that eventually you'll do something about it. And if you can't lose weight, you can lose something else. This is the kind of shit that with your throwaway comments you do. And I am lucky because the sense of anger is still stronger than self-hatred. So I'm happy to be here just because I bother you. My existence bothers you. Good, you should be bothered. And if you don't want to be bothered, you do what you should have done in the first place, not be here watching this. But I don't know how long is the resistance of other people, of other fat girls. And that's why you maybe want to think twice. You will not. You will not, and you don't know. You have blood on your hands already. You don't know it, but you do. I sleep at night, do you? You shouldn't. Your ignorance, along with your cruelty and your arrogance, allows you to. But as a decent person, you shouldn't. I think this is enough for today.